Before the first frost kissed the bones of the north, before gods shaped the heavens or giants crawled from the ice, before even time had learned to whisper its own name, there was Yggdrasil, the world tree, the ash that binds, the spine of the cosmos. It did not grow. It simply was rising from the void, like a secret too vast to be contained. Its roots plunged into wells of knowledge, pain, and primal matter. Its branches reached not for the stars, but past them, cradling the 9 realms in a silent, eternal embrace. It stood not in one place, but in all places. It breathed without lungs. It remembered before memory was born, and through it the Norse cosmos came alive. There are many who speak of Asgard, of Odin's throne, of Thor's thunder, of Loki's tricks. But none of these would mean anything without Yggdrasil. For Yggdrasil is not just a tree, it is the frame upon which fate hangs. It is the loom of time, the web that holds the gods, the mortals, the monsters, and all the shadows in between. And if you listen truly, listen, you can hear it groan, not in agony, but in endurance. For even the gods are not as old nor as burdened as the tree. Its roots are 3, though they twist in ways no eye can follow. One reaches into Asgard, the realm of the Aesir, the gods of sky and battle. There beside it stands the Well of Erd, where the Norns, the 3 weavers of fate, tend the sacred waters and whisper the destinies of all. One Norn writes, one reads, one forgets. Their names, Urdvadandi and Skuld, are not just titles. They are time itself, past, present, and that which has yet to demand its name. The second route winds into Jotunheim, the land of giants, wild, ancient, and primal. It sinks into the well of Mimir, where wisdom flows not gently, but in riddles and madness. Mimir, the severed head that sees too much, guards its secrets. Odin once gave his eye for a drink from that well, but even the All-Father could only sip from its edge. For truth, like venom, must be taken in doses, or it will hollow you. The third route plunges into Niflheim, the realm of frost and death, where the dragon Nidhogg gnaws eternally at the wood. Nidhogg is not just a beast, it is erosion, doubt, decay, the necessary rot that reminds all things, even gods, that nothing escapes the pull of ending. Its teeth are time, its hunger inevitability. These roots bind the tree, but the branches are the branches. They hold the 9 realms, like fruits suspended in a dance older than gods. They do not orbit, they intertwine. Each realm bleeds into the next, sometimes visible, often not. And Yggdrasil, patient and wordless, lets them hang. Asgard sits high, radiant and proud, home of the Aesir. Its towers gleam with gold and pride, its warriors drink to endings they've already foreseen. Below it, Midgard clings to the middle, the realm of men mortal, fleeting, stubborn. It is from Midgard that stories rise like smoke carried to the ears of gods and whispered into memory. Vanaheim lies hidden, the land of the Vanir gods of nature, fertility, and secrets left buried. They do not shout their truths as the Aesir do. They plant them. They grow them. Alfheim shimmers with light, home of the elves, beings so bright they blind, so silent they unsettle. They walk between dream and clarity, more concept than creature. Svartalfheim, or Nidavellir, lies beneath, forged in darkness, home of dwarves, who carve miracles from stone and whisper to metal. Their hammers do not sing, they remember. Jotunheim stretches wide and wild, untamed by order, filled with giants, whose size is matched only by their ancient loneliness. They are not evil, they are other, and the gods have never known what to do with that. Muspelheim burns not with flame alone, but with beginning. Fire that is not destruction, but creation in chaos. It is ruled by Surtr, who waits not to attack, but to ignite the last page. Niflheim freezes not just in cold, but in stillness. It is where the dead not chosen for battle sleep silent, forgotten vast. And then there is Hel. Hel, the daughter of Loki, the realm, and the queen, half rotting, half radiant. She rules not in cruelty, but in silence. Her realm is not a punishment, it is a destination. For even the gods, if they fall outside the songs, may find themselves beneath her gaze. All of these realms breathe within Yggdrasil. They hang not separately, but together, their fates braided in ways even the Norns dare not untangle. And above them all, at the peak of the highest branch, sits an eagle with no name whose eyes see across time. Atop its beak perches a hawk Vederfolnir, whose feathers stir winds into prophecy. Between the roots Ratatoska, the squirrel runs endlessly, carrying words some true, some poisoned, from the eagle to the dragon and back again. He is the whisper between ends, the gossip of eternity. Yggdrasil holds it all. It is not safe, it is not kind, but it is steady. And as long as it stands, the cosmos remains. But trees can rot, trees can burn, and when the tree trembles, the realms shudder with it. Ragnarok is not just the end of gods. It is the scream of the tree, and it has already begun to creak. The tree does not sleep. Even when the stars hide, even when the gods fall silent, even when mortals bury their heads beneath furs and fire, Yggdrasil listens. Its bark bears scars of forgotten wars. Its sap flows with echoes of prayers never answered. Time brushes past it like wind over stone, unable to erode what was never meant to age. But while its roots grasp the secrets of creation, its branches reach into the lives of gods and giants alike, weaving a canopy of fate that neither shields nor shelters, only binds. From its highest limb hangs Bifrost, the rainbow bridge. No simple arc of light, but a road of shimmering power, solid enough for gods, fragile enough to fracture under truth. It connects Asgard to Midgard, allowing the divine to walk among mortals, but only when purpose calls. Heimdall stands at its edge, guardian of the threshold, ears sharp enough to hear a leaf fall in another realm, eyes bright enough to see souls shift. He does not sleep, not because he fears invasion, but because the tree never does. And as long as Yggdrasil stands, so too must the Watcher. The branches of Yggdrasil do not grow as mortal trees do. They stretch where story flows, bending toward moments heavy with consequence. One such branch curls toward Vanaheim, where the Vanir whisper old songs to rivers and coax secrets from the soil. Njord Freyr and Freyja walk among wildflowers, their footsteps stirring fertility and sorrow in equal measure. They remember the war with the Aesir not as defeat or victory, but as transformation. And Yggdrasil remembers with them. Its leaves change when they breathe, its bark pulses when they dream. Another branch touches Alfheim, a realm that shimmers even in shadow. The light elves who dwell there are not born, they awaken. Their skin glows not with heat, but with the memory of light that first kissed the void. They speak in gestures, in glances, in harmonies the gods barely comprehend. Yet they too are bound by the tree. For even beauty cannot escape root and fate. The branch that holds them trembles with potential, but beneath it, shadows gather, dark elves from Svartalfheim, whispering rival truths, crafting wonders in caves that echo with spite and song. The tree weaves onward. Jotunheim, realm of giants, is not a place of chaos, but of raw design. Mountains there do not rise, they wait. Winds do not blow, they judge. The Jötnar walk with memories older than the gods who once feared them. Ymir, first of them, gave his body so that Midgard might rise, and yet the gods hunted his kin as threats. Still, the giants endure, carving runes into stone so deep, even Yggdrasil shifts to listen. One branch thicker than the rest twists above their skies, not out of favor, but as warning, or perhaps respect. Beneath that, the branch that touches Midgard is cracked, not broken, not yet, but it bends beneath weight the gods never foresaw. For mortals are strange creatures, small, fleeting, yet capable of choices even the Norns hesitate to predict. They build kingdoms only to destroy them. They write sagas with blood and love. They forget the gods, and then create them anew. Their fires light the tree's bark not as devotion but as challenge. And Yggdrasil listens. It always listens. But not all branches reach upward. Some curve back into the roots. Niflheim, realm of mist and cold, coils in silence, heavy with breath that has never warmed. The branch above it is sickly, gnawed by Nidhogg and his kin serpents of rot and spite. The dragon feeds not out of hunger but because it must. It is balance. What grows must fall. What stands must wither. And though the tree endures it, groans louder here. Helheim rests nearby, wrapped in quiet. Hel sits on a throne, not of power, but of stillness. Her domain is not cruelty, it is truth. She holds those who died outside of glory, those who were not sung into halls of gold. Their dreams echo upward through the tree, not in cries, but in questions. Why, what now? Was it enough? The tree does not answer, it simply remembers. High above at the edge of the sky, the nameless eagle watches. It does not speak. It judges nothing. Its gaze is lore silent and complete. Vedrfolnir the hawk upon its brow beats his wings not for flight, but to stir the winds that carry prophecy. And in that same rhythm Ratatoska scurries tail flicking, voice chittering, bringing insults and warnings between the eagle and Nidhogg. The messages are distorted, twisted, but perhaps that too is necessary. For how else do roots and branches remember each other, if not through tension? Every leaf on Yggdrasil is a soul, every vein a thread of fate, every knot in its bark a story paused mid-breath. And now, some of those leaves are falling, not many, but enough to feel. The tree does not panic, but it leans towards something. A great shift. The air has changed. The sap moves slower. The squirrel moves faster. The eagle blinks more often. The tree is not eternal. Nothing is, but while it stands there is still time. Time for gods. Time for men. Time for endings that might yet bend. Yggdrasil had always borne the weight of the 9 realms with quiet resilience, its limbs stretched wide to cradle gods, mortals, beasts, and monsters alike. But now even the wind in its branches whispered with a tremor. The roots once pulsing with the confidence of timeless rhythm now curled with caution. The bark darkened in places not from rot, but from realization, because something had changed. Not all at once, not loudly, but like a breath held too long. Ragnarok did not arrive with a single thunderclap. It began with the forgetting. First among the gods who no longer spoke of fate with reverence, but with irritation. Then among mortals who turned their prayers inward or scattered them to other skies. The tree felt it. It did not grieve, it was beyond grief, but it remembered. Every omission, every silence. The Norns, once tireless, now moved slower at the well of Urd. Their hands still wove, but with hesitation. Urd, the oldest, stared longer into the waters, her lips tight. Verdandi hesitated before casting the threads forward. Skuld, the one who sees what has not yet been clenched her fists more often now, as if unwilling to speak aloud what the roots already knew. Even Odin the Allfather felt it. From Hlidskjalf, his throne above the cosmos, he gazed across the realms and saw the thinness of the weave. He had once wandered the world in disguise, seeking wisdom beneath stars and among corpses. Now his ravens returned with fewer secrets, their wings heavy with dread. He remembered when he had hung himself from Yggdrasil, pierced by his own spear, to drink the runes of truth. But the truth now tasted different, bitter and inevitable. Below the dragon, Nidhogg bit harder. Once a slow erosion, his gnawing had quickened. The rot he spread moved faster, curling around one of the great roots and leaking shadow into the realm of the dead. Hel, too, stirred uneasily in her silent throne. The souls in her care had begun to dream more violently. They did not rest. They murmured. Of storms, of falling stars, of branches burning. In Muspelheim, Surtr gripped his sword tighter. The fire that licked his shoulders grew hotter, reaching toward the tree like a promise. He did not need to be told when to march. He felt it. A tension in the bark above, a pressure like a drumbeat beneath ash. His sword, destined to ignite the final blaze, whispered with flame soon. The tree did not scream, but it leaned further. Its branches swayed over Midgard, and in that realm of men, chaos festered, wars without end. Silence where honor once stood. Songs unsung, and yet hope, strange reckless hope. For mortals, unlike gods, did not know their place. They climbed the tree without permission. They carved their names into bark meant for legends. Some wept at its roots, others built fires in its shade, and some strange few listened. Yggdrasil noticed them, mortals who dreamed beyond their station, who prayed not for safety but for meaning. These souls flickered like leaves turning gold before the fall. Small, yes, but bright. The tree had no favorites, but it did not forget them. In Jotunheim, the giants stirred. Skrymir, ancient even by his kin's standards, placed his hand upon the earth and felt the pulse of the tree weaken. He spoke in low tones to the wind, asking questions no god could answer. Will the root break before the flame arrives? He asked. The mountains groaned. No answer came. Ratatoska ran faster now, frantic in his delivery. Once mischievous, he now chattered with urgency. Messages passed between the eagle and the dragon were no longer insults, they were warnings. And with each sprint along the bark, he left tiny scratches, desperate trails of haste. The tree did not mind. It had long since stopped bleeding. In Alfheim, the light elves began to disappear into mist. One by one they turned to glimmering vapour, returning their brilliance to the branch that bore them. Their queen Elivaga whispered a final song to the roots before fading. When light must flee, it leaves the dark with memory, she said. The tree hummed in reply, not in agreement, not in sorrow, but in recognition. Even Svartalfheim dimmed. The forges cooled. The dwarves hammered slower, as though metal no longer begged to be shaped. Sindri and Brokkr, creators of God's treasures, sat in silence. Mjolnir, Draupnir, Gungnir, all weapons of destiny, now hummed with a final frequency. The dwarves did not cry. They simply stopped. And that silence sang louder than anvils ever could. High above, the eagle tilted its head. It had watched the stars shift. It had seen Bifrost flicker. It knew what the creaking in the wind meant. The hawk upon its brow beat its wings harder. And Ratatoska, pausing only once in his dash, looked to the eagle, to the sky, and to the deep dark below. It is time, he whispered. And still, Yggdrasil stood, bruised, leaning, but still whole. Not for long, but long enough. Because not all endings arrive with fire. Some begin with a single falling leaf, and the first had just touched the ground. The leaf fell in silence. It did not flutter. It did not resist. It dropped with purpose, and as it touched the ground beneath Yggdrasil's shadow, a pulse moved through the roots, not a tremor of fear, but of preparation. The tree had endured for eons beyond memory, its limbs the frame upon which all fate was nailed. But now the weight had shifted. The end had begun to climb, not with fire, not with ice, but with inevitability. Ragnarok was no longer prophecy. It was motion. In Muspelheim, Surtr rose. His blade, once buried in fire, now glowed with the certainty of ending. He did not shout. He did not command. He walked. With every step, flame unspooled behind him like a river returning to its source. He moved not toward conquest, but toward completion. For he was not merely the destroyer, he was the reset, the hand that wipes the board clean. Bifrost cracked. Heimdall's ears twitched as the tremor reached the bridge. He turned eyes wide, not with fear, but with clarity. His horn Gjallarhorn had waited for this sound, for this moment. He lifted it. The tree seemed to inhale, and then the horn sang. Its note split realms. In Asgard, Odin closed the last book of fate. He stood aged not by time but by knowing. He looked to Frigg, to Balder, to those who remained, and without words they understood. The gods marched, but even they knew they were not the center of this end. Yggdrasil was, and it was shaking. Its branches stretched, twisting, as if resisting something too great to hold. The leaves did not fall, they tore away. The sky above split into colors unseen, as if the very concept of reality had begun to fray. The Norns stood at the well of Urd, their threads snapping one by one, no longer weaving, but watching. Skald whispered, "It comes." Urd replied, "It was always coming." Verdandi said nothing. Her hands were empty. And far below, in the deepest root, Nidhogg climbed. He no longer chewed. He ascended. His wings spread black and wet with centuries of rot. He did not roar. He smiled. For all his gnawing had not been vengeance. It had been faithfulness. He had done his duty. Now he would rise to feed on the dead. The eagle above shrieked once, not in fear, in farewell. Ratatoska, tired and limping, crawled up one final time. He looked across the canopy. He saw Alfheim gone, Vanaheim burning, Midgard shaking. He saw gods fall like fruit from severed limbs. And still he ran, not to stop it, but to witness. Because some things must be witnessed. Yggdrasil cracked, not in a single break, but in song. A chorus of wood, of bark of destiny splitting along lines etched too long ago. The tree did not fall quickly. It fell like a world forgetting itself. And yet, in the space between falling and ruin, something stirred. A seed, not large, not glowing, not marked with runes or prophecy, just a seed, nestled beneath where the roots had once curled, not placed, planted, not by gods, not by fate, but by a mortal, long ago, a child who had once sat beside the tree and whispered stories to the roots. A dreamer, a fool, a believer. The tree had listened. It always had. And from that belief, that impossibly human defiance of endings, the seed had grown. Now in the collapse it pulsed, it cracked, it sprouted, tiny, trembling, real. And through that fragile sprout, the tree dying, breaking, remembering, breathed again. Not revival, not reversal, but renewal. For even in destruction something can grow. The gods fell, the realms burned, the serpent was dead, the wolf devoured, the sun blinked. But the tree had already begun again. And as the last branch broke, as the final scream of the sky bled into silence, that tiny green shoot reached upward, toward whatever came next, not to restore what had been, but to become what might be. Because that is what Yggdrasil was all along. Not the tree of gods, not the tree of fate, but the possibility of becoming, and so it remains, waiting, growing, until the next story begins.